Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below this video. Stumbling over the words Patreon, a massive thank you to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Eric Trosh, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Cannabear, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Bain Foster, and Dank. Another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. And now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones, while I think we'll enjoy a couple of edited videos that I made over the weekend, which I think have been released to either the members or the public. But this is members only for a couple of days anyway, either way. So we'll enjoy a couple of videos after I've connected to the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. Pardon?
What's the plan for today?
I've got a couple of videos that I want to play. That's about it. They're my own videos, so I'm just going to stick them on now.
I have a few Danny Faulkner clips, if you're interested.
Yeah.
He had an interview with this. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Just give me a couple of minutes.
Because we're only recording, can't remember which of these two videos. I'll play one, and if a conversation ensues during or after, then I won't play the second. But this what I just did this in my intro actually. This makes no difference because this will come out in a couple of days anyway. In other words, this video will go to members first. But yeah, I'm down for Danny Faulkner videos. Okay. So the video I want to play you that's mine is this one, which is How the Globe is Measured Flat, Dave McKeegan, EQ Response, Part 1. Get into that one's sized up. Oh, by omission, ignore the fact that you've leveled your tool, but you do leave enough detail for the actual people who know how the world works to point out that his Polaris measurement for latitude is a flat earth proof also. There's quite a few flat earth proofs in here, Dave, including latitude. How'd you measure latitude? Oh, it's an elevation angle measurement of a flat plane to Polaris. Yeah, you'll need a flat plane for that. I am Nathan Oakley, and in this video I'm going to use Dave McKeegan's use of the EQ mount to demonstrate how they have hijacked a flat earth measurement and turned the protractor that you can see on screen wrapped around this EQ mount on the equatorial plane into a globe. The protractor on screen now in the upcoming diagrams that you'll see throughout the video response to Dave McKeegan gets represented as the globe. So when they describe 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles, they're describing the turning of the protractor that the globe has hijacked to call the surface. In reality, what you're actually looking at on screen is a representation of a protractor wrapped around the telescope, measuring an angle between the flat surface and the star in the sky. For latitude, this would be Polaris. Now, when you level an EQ mount, you are effectively drawing out a protractor around you. And the globe Earth has taken that and turned it into the surface. In reality, we measure Earth flat. Smash the super chat, leave a thanks. If you enjoyed the video, I've been Nathan Oakley. Enjoy.
Now, there are different types of trackers. You can get guided ones, such as this telescope mount, which has motors that control both its rotation and the telescope's elevation. And you set this up by selecting 2 or 3 stars as a reference in the handset, and then you point the scope at each of those reference points, and from that, the handset can work out exactly where you are in the world and where everything else is in the sky.
How does that relate to the
Objection.
surface? Because the machine's got to be leveled. And the axis to measure elevation is the angle with respect to the leveled tool on a level surface. That's how you get the elevation. That's what it's detailing when it references the stars in their position. Yeah, it's their elevation angle. That's a flat Earth measurement that you're referencing.
It's using an equatorial plane.
Precisely. This is a video that I've already hacked together, actually, George, just so you know. An edited video. It's not like we're playing Dave McKeegan right now, although we are in my edited video. Were you unaware that that elevation was an angle with respect to the level of the tool that you've used? Because it is.
I could then say on this that I want to view the Andromeda Galaxy, and it would drive the telescope round to it and keep it tracked.
How would it know? Would it be because we've tracked the positions with respect to the ground? Yeah, it would. These positions are logged in the almanac. We know where the stars are going to be because for quite a considerable period of time, we've been tracking their motion. And their motion is tracked with respect to their angle. So their elevation, as you described it, is an angle description with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. The same horizontal plane of reference that you leveled your tool to. Notice he hasn't mentioned that yet. Not once. 6 minutes into the video. Over halfway.
That's how he's going to get away with it. He's never going to reference the ground.
Yeah, all he's done is reference the sky, but he referenced the sky with the elevation of the star. So I can still use his words to describe how those positional pieces of information for the star are with respect to their elevation, and that's an angle off a plane. 100 people watching my show. Please let Dave know that his reference, if he doesn't actually even address the equatorial plane, that this is described when actually measuring something called the celestial sphere, which is with respect to a equatorial plane, because that's how this tool works. Everything he's detailing is flat, but he's just not mentioning it. He hasn't mentioned leveling the tool.
You know, people could argue that that's possible on a flat Earth since the telescope knows where everything is.
All right, no, the fact that you're leveling it to the equatorial plane and then measuring the angles, that's elevations, of the stars with respect to that plane that you leveled the tool to. So it's a prerequisite, Dave. That's why I was confused at the beginning. You seem to think that without highlighting the prerequisite leveling of the tool with respect to the equatorial plane, so you can measure these positions to get reference of the stars and where they are in elevation, yeah, that's a flat Earth prerequisite, Dave. But now you're going to ponder how that might not work on a flat Earth? That's a prerequisite.
This equatorial mount, however, isn't as fancy. With this, you have to face it either directly north or south, depending on which hemisphere you're in.
Sorry, north or south? Oh, I've got the whirly whirl. My super fast million megabits per second internet connection that I pay for. Ed, John, hello, by the way.
Hey, it's interesting that Dave McKeegan's evidence and the stick attached to a stick that has nothing to do with the ground argument we heard the other day are the same argument.
Yeah. I understood. What was confusing with the guy who put it to us the other day was that he was claiming to be a flat earther and claiming that that stick on a stick, as you just put it, was a debunk of the earth turning. Like, no, that's how they move the line from the angle that is equatorial in nature in the center of a sphere out to the surface. That's your stick on a stick. And that's justified with parallel light rays. If they can get you to understand how it's transpositional to the center, if that's the correct word. Transposable, that's the right word.
Yeah, which is starting to make me doubt that he's a flat earther, or his little false dichotomy is going to lead him back to the globe.
Exactly what I was trying to infer. I'm glad you said it first, because that's exactly where I was going. Yes. I was like, I don't care that you're declaring to me that you're on my side and this is debunking the globe. The concept that you're putting into my audience's mind is the concept that we can take the angle from the center and move it out on a separate stick or line. Right, John?
Yeah, and the celestial. If you go in false dichotomy against the celestial sphere, you're going to lose every time.
Exactly. So if they can get it to work, stick on a stick in a globe, regardless of it being claimed to be a flat Earth's position to take apart the spin, you're like, no, it doesn't. It's totally non sequitur, in fact. But
Who's this?
I'm just talking about on Friday. When the globe takes an angle from an equatorial plane, but infers that the angles come from the protractor, the circle through which you will measure at the equatorial plane, and they say that that circle or semicircle is the surface of the sphere. To get that, which now won't work with angle measurements, to be transposable into the sphere, you've got to say that the light coming in is parallel with the radial value and meets at the center by pure fiat. It just does. Why are we taking it to the center of the world that's spherical? We just are. No, we are because it must work there. But they've got to have some sort of 3-carb Monty shill trick where they distract you away from the fact that they're not doing it on their sphere surface. That's their notion that, well, yeah, for every 1 degree of the protractor, but they say that that's you moving along the Earth's surface. The stars will change and move towards the horizon because you're moving over a curve. No, the curve that they think they're moving over is the curve of the protractor they measure at the equatorial plane. What John's saying is the guy who is claiming to be a flat earther, we don't think he was, we seem to be in agreement, although I haven't confirmed that with John, was to say, if I stick a stick on an angle to a flat surface and then stick another stick on it, it's like, well, that's how the globe would effectively work. You've got the line coming out from an angle that you're claiming the light that you're measuring is parallel to a line that moves into the center of hell so that you can actually make the angle realistically work with the angle you're measuring. And that's effectively what our claim to be flat earth friendly guy, who's very vehement and angry about his "we are understanding how this debunks a sphere turning" argument, that wasn't a sphere earth not turning argument. That's a non-claim. You don't have to prove it's their positive position. But he was adamant that he was going to put it to us, right, John?
You know, I was going to say something,
John?
but I didn't want to be the paranoid guy that would. I was thinking the same thing. How could this guy be a flat earther if he's resisting so much?
I'm so glad John brought it up. John, what did you think?
I thought that he was either ignorant and a flat earther who was getting ready to put up a false dichotomy, or he was a glober who was being who was trolling. Is the only two things I could think.
Right. And you don't want to call it either way. You just want to take apart the argument. You're like, when they launch into, but I'm a flat earther in the middle of their argument, you're like, it doesn't make any difference to what we're discussing, what your position is claimed to be. Like, flat earthers don't tend to use that as a lever, do they?
Exactly.
If it's very, very obvious that you're arguing at cross purposes in terms of a concept, and you're arguing with a flat earther and saying you believe a globe, they'll just correct you immediately, right? But we weren't. It's automatically been positioned. Look, bear in mind, I'm arguing from a flat earth stance because I'm trying to debunk earth term. That's how he started
Nathan,
off positioning.
as soon as you broke that down for him, if you're a real flat earther, you're going to be blown away by the fact that, wow, Earth is measured flat. He kept saying, yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, then why are you talking about a freaking globe with 2 sticks on it when you just explained the devastating proof that we have?
I don't want people whistling past the graveyard. Right, okay, so we're getting an angle from a flat plane. Let's just stop there then. No, if I've got the angle from a flat plane, if I stick another stick on it and measure... No. So we got an angle from a flat earth. End of argument. Well, it can't be that simple. I've got a whole example. No, I don't care. There's an angle being measured from a flat earth requirement. So Earth's required to be flat for us to start this process, regardless of what anybody does with it thereafter. That's why I love the argument. It's just like, this is it. Flat Earth bit's measured. What you want to go from there? No, I'll stop there.
No. if you're genuine, you take your little example and you're like, well, that's the end of my example. Tell me more about this elevation angle measurement. I didn't get that from him.
What
I
they
got
do
persistence
is-
on his little trick.
Yeah, what they insist on is no, but if we now imagine that that which works only on a flat plane was working on a sphere, you go, well, it won't. That's still the end of the argument. No, but I've got to make it work from a sphere to put it in false dichotomy. Go with me. No, both arguments are starting with a flat Earth. You're not going to put your globe version of I'm claiming this proves a sphere with a flat Earth measurement against your version, which inevitably will be straw man stereotype flat Earth fails, where mine that uses a flat Earth in the first place wins. I'm not going to have that anymore. The moment you reference a flat Earth, which everything does always, I'm going to draw a line in the sand. It's the end of this discussion. We've used a flat Earth. So we're measuring a flat Earth then. The last 3 edited videos I put together, including this to a certain extent, highlights that fact. The moment you get to, we're measuring a flat Earth, we're going to get concessions. No, the maths in a sphere works from the sphere surface. No, it doesn't. It starts with the flat Earth surface. That's where the maths is coming from. And we are going to focus on nothing else. Because that's how Earth's measured flat for you, the globe believer. So we're going to draw your attention to how you're measuring Earth flat for your globe faith every time it comes up, which is always.
Yeah, but that when he wanted to force that false dichotomy, there was something that irked me about it, especially when we explained it to him several times that, you're invoking a false dichotomy, and he would say, well, that's irrelevant. I can stick a stick in a ball. It was like, you didn't listen to anything we just said.
You know who he sounded like, John? He sounded like Jiren and Witsit.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They're if they think that sticking a stick in a ball, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, he had to blow the earth up to try to make his example work. Like, really? You're trying to prove the surface you're standing on, not blow it up. What are you doing?
Well, isn't it similar? Like when Jiren and them say, well, you can get an angle from a sphere, it just wouldn't be accurate. Same thing.
Yeah, they're using the same Jedi mind trick that the Polish use. Yeah, their example requires a baseline, a horizontal plane. The point is, it doesn't work on a sphere. On a spherical surface, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't have a perpendicular to vertical on a surface of a sphere.
Georgie, when you pointed out to him that his diagram, you said, look, your whole diagram, it's a flat plane. You got the horizontal baseline. He was like, no, I just did that there to make it easy to understand. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. That's the trick.
Yeah.
The Polish use the same trick.
Yeah, John's
Yeah, when
quote,
I heard that back and he said that,
I just want to drop your quote in. You guys need a flat Earth more than we do. End quote. Refracted curvature, aka John, the guy I just interrupted.
Yeah, that's a true that statement is ringing more and more. It's getting louder and louder every time I hear that. It's
I
like,
quote
wow,
it all the
that's
time.
so true.
I quote it. I stick it in quotes. You guys need a flat plane more than we do. End quote. Refracted curvature as a response in comments, because they're always using it without exception. There's no example that you will give me ever that doesn't start with a flat Earth measurement. They all do. There's no exceptions.
Yeah, and they all tell us how we need a flat Earth too.
When you moan about Jaren and Witsit, they've argued in false dichotomy for 10 years. That's the bottom line. And unfortunately, Pavlovian conditioning has left them stuck there. Well, that's all right. That's what we're here for. And the reverberations of what we disseminate will reach them eventually, Neil. Hopefully people along the way will sing our praises and grow the channel. But in the meantime, people have argued that false dichotomy for a very long time. It's been conditioned into them now.
Hold on. So have we for years.
I know.
And when this came to us, there was no resisting. There was, whoa, holy cow, look at this now.
Okay.
This is beautiful.
Aren't we wonderful? What do you want me to do? Pat you on the back and tell you how wonderful we are?
No, I'm just saying.
That's
There's
not true.
there's something sticky about it.
No, there isn't. John, I suspect, is about to tell you how we didn't just take it and run with it and understand it. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I spent a year resisting it. I don't know what you're talking about, Neil.
Because you
And I
were
was
a
getting it.
glober.
Here we go.
No, it wasn't. I knew that the horizon was an Earth curve. I understood the
Yeah,
motor
after the
stolen.
Black Swan.
Well, this isn't the Black Swan.
You became a flat earther after the Black Swan. You realized
talking
you
cross
had no
purposes.
measurements.
Just accept it wasn't because he was a glober. Then you can move on because it's post him accepting Black Swan is what you're saying, Neil.
Yeah, but he still had glober tendencies,
No,
John.
he didn't. He was
You
a
know?
flat earther from that moment on, regardless of again
I
what's
know he was.
preconditioned into people to behave with their linguistics. That's not what we're talking about here. He's saying you resisted the celestial navigation argument or measured flat argument. I don't know which one. He hasn't clarified because you've accused him of being a glober, and now we're stuck here.
I resisted the information that 10th was disseminating because I didn't trust anything. You know, that's just after your authority is found to be wrong, doubt is sown into everything. So I didn't trust anything. You know.
There's something fishy about Jaron and Whitsitt. I don't care what you say.
Okay, that's a rinse and repeat. We just explained based on the example you gave why that would be happening, and you've just rinsed and repeated. Frustrating if you were them listening back, given that we've given them an excuse.
All right, no more rinse and repeat. John, how long did you resist for? Couple of months. You threw questions at 10th man, and then you settled in, and you were like, "Wow, this is amazing." Okay, how long has it been now with Jaron and
Okay, we heard the question.
0, whatever?
Okay, Neil, you'd have to go up an octave and repeat it. We heard the question. So did John. But for the audience's benefit, 10th was going through this daily with us. Go ahead, John.
A year, almost a solid year. It's in the pre-shows where I try to argue the information.
Thank you. Now, how long have we been going over this? At least 2 years now. The Black Swan was what?
And Jaron and Whitsitt must watch every single show, mustn't they, Neil?
Oh, yeah, they do. You better believe they do. They know every time we say something about them, they're right on it. You know, you guys, you're in this thing so long, and I don't understand how you can't sniff out something suspicious when it's right there in front of you.
No, I
Freaking
think
drive me crazy.
I think there's other motives which we've discussed in the past when analysing some of the confrontations between certainly Whitsitt and myself, and indeed Jaron and myself, that we've had. So, no, I think we've assessed those and haven't come to the conclusion that there's something fishy. For instance, with Whitsitt, I think for whatever reason, Whitsitt's, I don't want to use the word because I use it for globers, but I don't want to say it. I'll just think of a different word. Give me a minute. Apprehensive. Whitsitt is apprehensive of what I do for whatever reason. Yeah? But for positive, let's just say, positive apprehension. I can't think of a better way of phrasing it without being seriously derogatory to Whitsitt. But John and I have discussed this literally last week when we were dissecting his video, and we came to that conclusion. Now, there was a lot of manly man words that we used instead, but this is remaining broadcastable. I shift uncomfortably, knowing that there's going to be unbroadcastable words to follow from either you or John. We'll see. Got 5 minutes before we go live, by the way. A bit of a pissing competition, Neil. Well, no,
right. There's also pride that you have to take pride into account because these are things that we know. But, you know, it's like the emperor's been naked for centuries now, or at least a century. And nobody's really pointed it out.
Nobody noticed.
People have argued this. Yeah, people's argued this for 10 years, and nobody's just pointed out that, hey, you're measuring Earth flat. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I think it's a curve. What are you doing?
Too good to be true, doesn't it? And we're being braced against that like we were braced against with the elevation angle measurements and celestial aberration arguments and black swan arguments and science arguments. You can date it all back. Everything has been braced against, Neil. Everything.
Oh, forget about them. I'm more concerned with those that coming in, like the elder bears and the bevs. What's their game plan?
No, you can ask him if you want his ear.
Not flat earthers. I mean, you're either flat earther or you're a baller. This not flat earther thing, it's really driving me crazy.
Number one, that's not what he said. And number two, you've asked him this question and he has actually asked you. And his answer was to say, look, I don't know what the world is at the moment and I'm trying to find out. And I see deception everywhere and I see it in you and I'm calling you on it. That's his answer. Now, more power to him, Neil. But he's already answered that question. He's sat here listening to us probably. He's probably not at his mic. But the point is, you have asked and he has answered that. Just like...
I didn't hear that.
Well, you asked him. It was you who asked him. I heard the answer.
Right. His position and trust of authority has been eroded by the failings of the globe. So now he doesn't
That's a
trust
good
anyone.
excuse. That's a good excuse.
Right, well, that's
You
what
know,
he
I
told
listened
us.
to that show. Got yelled at 5 times, and by the end of it, you were yelling at him.
Yeah, because
So,
yeah.
I'm glad you caught up.
The reason I get annoyed at you in the first instance is because you instantly set someone like Ed Bear off on a negative vibe, a back foot. Oh, here we go. You'll say through the top of him when he's just talking, and he's already bared his innermost to a degree when asked certain questions.
He's setting you
Neil,
up.
are you doing it to me now? Yeah, he disagrees with us. And sometimes when people disagree, they are disagreeable. However, he has gone to certain extents to try, A, to detach himself from Bev, which I've just poked and poked. Why not? Because he said he doesn't like it. Well, okay, you do things and I do things, and it's tit for tat in that regard. Hopefully that facade from both of us will get dropped eventually. And it's starting to soften from me because of it. He has revealed answers to certain things that you've asked. You have asked, Neil, that I don't care about. But at least when someone's motivation is revealed to a certain extent, and you trust that they're honest, I don't disbelieve him. I don't think he's just making up crap about his motivation when we're asked. Then you soften to them. You don't. As soon as he comes in, he's like, oh, here he is. It's going to put him on it's going to make him defensive. Then when we do end in an
Okay,
argument, I
Nathan,
think maybe this would be
the
different if
reason
Neil
why-
hadn't set him off before he'd even started or in the middle of his first sentence. That's why you get shouted at, Neil.
No, that's not why.
Yeah, I've just told you why. I'm not making it up. My heart sinks when he starts talking. I'm like, let's hopefully keep this civil. Before he's finished his first breath, here we go from you.
Should I post all the messages I get
That's between
during
you
the
and
show,
him.
after the show, and before
No,
the
you
show?
shouldn't.
For
Should
when
I
it
post-
comes in
no,
for me to
you
say, here we
shouldn't.
go again.
Oh, you asked me a question.
And it's
You asked me a
and
question.
it's always
I'm
going
not
to
getting
come back to the
answer.
same
It wasn't
thing.
rhetorical.
Earth not measured flat. You know what? Keep your shit. I don't care.
He's
I'm just
here.
going to stay on freaking mute.
Answering you asked me, and then it wasn't rhetorical. Should you post all his messages? No. That's not how it works when people can discuss things in public with each other. That takes a lot higher mental cognition, processing, ability, and I would rather do things with people verbally rather than when they've had a long time to type things out between someone else that's private, on a private message. Should you publish the private messages? No.
Did Neil say he's going on mute?
Is that a little jab in the ribs?
Hooray. Praise Jesus.
Indeed, Allah be
What's
praised.
your freaking problem?
Here we go. Praise Jesus, did he not?
Good
Neil
morning,
staying
everyone.
on mute.
Hello.
He'll
Hey,
letting
good
us know
afternoon.
that he's staying
Hey.
on mute by being off mute, letting us know he's off mute. And he's going to be on mute.
I think I have a housekeeping question, a new one.
A new one? Well, we'll see about that. Go ahead, John.
Can anyone prove the stars have geometry?
I like that one.
I don't like it. Do you want to know why I don't like it? Why would there be a burden?
Because there's a positive claim out there that they do.
They
Yep.
set the star. Do they?
It's not ours.
They set the stars, and they have an internal contradiction. Actually, it would seem that they've got an assertion because they've got fixed distances based on Kepler and Huygens, right? Without going through why, we understand that, but that is not how they use the stars, is it? They use them at an infinite distance, off a claim to be parallel light using spherical protractor that's got you in the center of it in reality. Not in reality, because you can't be in the center of a sphere. You're on the equatorial plane, just measuring angles. But what I'm saying is, they don't have a geometric assertion at an infinite distance because there's no fixed distance to the stars in a globe paradigm with a contradiction that has them both at a fixed distance and at an infinite distance. Do you follow my meaning?
Well, if Baller would like to explain all that after we ask the question, they'd look like fools, wouldn't they?
They would, but it brings me back to my original question. Why the need for a burden? Why is there a burden when I can just state as fact that celestial navigation requires Earth to be navigated, measured, dealt with, flat? Well, there's no burden. There's just a statement of fact, is there not?
Well, yeah, but the housekeeping questions are about positive claims that have a burden that haven't been answered.
Yeah.
Are they not?
Yeah, they are. But that doesn't mean that there's going to be one for this. The reasons I've just given. What's the positive claim that they're making? Other than, if you bear with me, you weren't here at the time, but back in the day, Rumpus used to say sextants only work on a globe. A few commenters have said it, or said that there's no triangles involved. Things of that nature, stupid stuff. Well, outside of the anti-flat Earth bullshit, where is there a sky vacuum or an Earth curve or an axial rotation or a distance to a celestial item? Where is the positive claim within celestial navigation on a globe? The answer is there's no positive assertion. I identified this in December of last year when I said we're going to move forward into 2024 on the front foot with our positive claim. So I don't see that there's a comparison to put it as a housekeeping question for me to invite an answer unless I invite the false dichotomy. You see what I mean? I'm frowning because I don't know that you're going to agree.
But they do assert that the sky is curving. They do assert that the stars are really super far away, and they make other assertions that are built upon that without evidence.
No, they don't.
They have no evidence.
Well, they know they're built on flat Earth measurements of the angles, are they not?
Yeah, but from the flat Earth angle measurements, why would you assert that the sky is curving or the stars are almost infinitely distant?
Well, why would you? Isn't something I want to ask anymore. I mean, you're right. The question should be asked, and I'm glad you have, because it means I can answer it. Well, you wouldn't. Earth's measured flat. And that's where I'm going to be taking it to every single time. And not moving forward to understand why you'd then take that flat Earth measurement of an angle to Polaris and suggest that you're standing on the outside or inside, if you're a concaver, edge of a protractor. You're not. You've just measured an angle. Or if you're winding up the angle to Polaris on your equatorial mount, you're winding the mount that's been leveled to the angle of the Polaris star that you've measured off the equatorial plane, because that's how the tool works. So when you put the angle based on a number on the tool, you're just measuring angle. It's a requirement, a prerequisite that Earth is flat to do so. At that point, I just stop, or will, on the front foot, without answering any questions that require that to be the starting point, because it does, always.
Right. So all the housekeeping questions under that reasoning would now be voided.
That's what I was thinking.
That's correct. I've been thinking the same thing for a few weeks. There's no way to recondition those questions, put them through the rinse and cycle them into how they can be paraphrased into showing that Earth is starting with a prerequisite measurement. They almost invite the false dichotomy I decried in the pre-show, don't they?
Yes, when you ask why of someone who's making a false claim to give you an explanation for how it's true, it becomes non sequitur at best, and it introduces, all you can do is introduce a fallacy at that point.
I mean, the purpose of them was originally to keep the ballers reminded of how they failed, so that it's not rinsed and repeated daily, with Globers coming in as they do, seldom do now, to say, well, because we've got a force of gravity, or, well, because Earth's just a sphere, you know, we already know, or because we've got a photo from space and that, or, well, because I know that the star movement proves we're turning, or whatever it is that they start with. All of them have been overcome in the last 10 years, and we're highlighting that fact to stop the constant perpetual cycle of the rinse and repeat motion. They're still worthy, in other words, after consideration, as you can tell, I've done, because they stop that constant, incessant reintroduction of false dichotomy arguments while having it pointed out on a daily basis that they've already been overcome. They're more like gravestones. I just can't think of a way to phrase this. Do you know what I mean? They're not housekeeping. They're dusting graves. I don't know how to phrase that better.
That's a better one to say, because like John said, the housekeeping questions cleaned house.
Well, yeah, but they did. But they kept the house immaculate for no one to come and sleep in the beds anymore, right? So the phraseology of housekeeping is to suggest that the flat Earth debate is a little hotel. You check in, and housekeeping's already taken place when you step off your bed, put your slippers on, and start interacting with the other guests, right? That is kind of the metaphor that I had in my mind. Well, if no one's sleeping in the beds, go on. Someone from Discord really wants to get a word in because they're off mute. Go ahead, whoever that is. Jardo, maybe? Someone's either hot micing or they want to get a word in. Go on, Jardo.
No, sorry. My phone's stuck, so I can't mute. But anyway, I just wanted to say that it's about time now that you dropped the housekeeping questions, kept them, but make them statements of claim.
Yeah, that is something I've also
In the Ten
considered, although that's
Commandments
very
of the
difficult.
flat Earth.
The only way when I considered it in the shower a few weeks ago now, the way my mindset was to right that wrong, square that circle, was to ask the question and then incorporate the answer, which is to say, if it's axial rotation, point out that axis requires a flat plane of reference, things like that. But then they lose their. Then you just with the metaphor of housekeeping in mind, you're keeping house and then sticking voodoo dolls all over the room. You know what I mean? So it kind of defeats the purpose. I know what you're saying, that they could do with paraphrasing, but how it becomes really complicated to show that a false dichotomy argument's already been overcome by way of this question, but also the question shouldn't exist because you've got a flat Earth prerequisite. To incorporate all that into a snappy little question, a couple of which will be asked throughout the week, I think is not possible. But what I do think is possible is there's a hotel that's paid for. There's no rent due. There's no tax to pay. And literally, all you need to do every now and again is go over with a feather duster and just knock the dust off what has already been built and established. Now, while I don't feel it's necessary to do all housekeeping questions every day, I do think, if nothing else for the sake of tradition, this show's been going on a long time, ask the questions periodically at the start of the show, as in one or two, or just one, in the case of today, just because it gets the conversation started. There's a certain air of tension when you go, welcome to Flat Earth Debate live. There's going to be a certain, for most people I know, will shift slightly uncomfortably in their seat. Oh, it really matters now when I interject, or I'm off mute because I can't figure my phone without dropping or rejoining whatever Jardo has got as an issue. That's more prevalent in your mind because we're live. And obviously, I want the complete antithesis. I want everyone to be as natural as can be, as free and comfortable as they could be to air their views on the nature of the world. But to get people in the mood, a reminder to my own side, I'm biased, I'm a flat earther, I know it's measured flat, that we've overcome the false dichotomies. It's a reminder to us, if nothing else. It's like a tradition to just ask the question. Because then, over time, as they become less and less prevalent in the show, which they already have to an extent, you'll get people creeping into the beds. Oh, this bed looks comfy. And then the next thing you know, it's like, no, that was only dusted off 2 days ago. You didn't happen to see the housemaid dusting off the axial rotation requirement for a flat Earth. were you unaware? Immediately, you've then got somebody in the bed claiming Earth's sphere, turning around on an axis, and you can start attacking it based on the fact that this is still a flat Earth debate show, and the majority, this is the main point, of the Western world don't appreciate that which we have achieved in the last 10 years. We're cut off from the majority of society in a YouTube sense. So the shares that I implore people to use, smash that share button. I say it every show, and e-beg for shares, so that the information that we can keep dusted over a little bit at the beginning of each show, and it gets us in the mood. I think it does a good job of that. There you go. That's the angle to get you back in the conversation, Jardo. Do you not feel that the nostalgia keeps you in the mood once the live show starts?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with the anticipation of the questions, knowing exactly that you're going to get stone silence. But I think now, juxtaposing your 2024 position, that is that you're moving forward with front foot and proof, rather than asking questions, make it a statement. So therefore, is there any evidence? Well, after 10 years, we have found no evidence of this, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're saying have a question at the beginning, or a question incorporated into that cycle of dusting that says, is there any evidence that Earth is measured anything other than flat? Something along those lines as one of the questions. Would you agree that that would be a good inclusion?
Yes.
Rather than a removal entirely. Because for a couple of shows we did, but you start off and it can be a bit dry at the start of the show if you don't have a compare-like question asked to open up the discussion. And I like that we've got a structured set of questions that have very real and very intentional phraseology behind them because of a history that's led to them, that's now in place to keep that sort of vibe. This is what's going to get the opening up of the show going. And if it does result in a stony silence, we typically reflect on that fact. Yeah? And then move on to, if it's one of the questions, the fact that we are measuring Earth flat in all instances. So I'll incorporate it. If we can, maybe over the next week, polish up a question that I can incorporate as one of the two, or maybe just one question that we ask at the beginning of each show, and have it be in regards to the fact Earth's measured flat, because it is. While we're getting the resistance is while we need to polish up this question, because it's while we'll get your lumpy gases in a vacuum or the John refracted curvature when, comparing and contrasting him and his resistance to 10th man with the elevation angle argument, which is well established now. We'll get the same thing while we're polishing this up as a housekeeping question. That'll invite the flat earthers in to go, I don't like this. In certain instances, flat as a description can't be measured. You go, yeah, that's true. We've heard it, I think it's 14 times, but I'll hear it a 15th while we're polishing up the question. Hey, Eli. Hey, Eli. Eli? Eli? Eli! No, obviously not. He's not taking any of it. So, yeah, I mean, the housekeeping questions are fine as they are, as they've been inserted one or two throughout the week. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get right back into the discussion after the pre-show's discussion. Eli?
If the purpose is to keep the conversation fresh or to get people to talk, then you've made an argument for proof of the star's geometry.
Sorry that's a good point. I just want to shout out Jardo. Thank you for the gifting of memberships to people who are in the chat. So I'm sure Jono, Arwin, Heated. Is it Heated? H-E-H-T-E-D? Okay. Matrix and Gary are very grateful. These free memberships. There's loads of videos that will be coming out. I've got 3 on the go now that I'm editing, and I've put out a couple over the weekend. So there's several members-only videos for you to enjoy. Thank you, Jardo, for gifting those memberships. Can you reiterate your point, John? Number one, because I've forgotten. And number two, because I recognised it was good as soon as I heard it.
Yeah, if you just made an argument for why, asking about if the stars have geometry. So someone that would invoke conversation, especially with the topic as we're discussing it now, would it not?
It would, but last time I had that discussion with someone else, my argument was, who cares? They're dealt with as they are dealt with. They behave as they behave. There's no ambiguity. There's no question or debate. I'm not making this as a positive claim. That's how it's done. Therefore, to ask the question about, bearing in mind this is how it's done, is it geometry or not? It's like, it's celestial navigation. I don't know. Let me think about it. I'm not suggesting that I should be the arbiter of whether or not this happens. But I just need to digest it, John.
Is he asking for evidence of soil in the sky?
No, I don't think so. But I like that you brought that up.
That's what it reminds me of.
Do you want to explain what you mean by soil in the sky? Although it was me that phrased that.
What about very geometric objects? That's what they claim to be.
Yeah, land in the sky. The lights in the sky are claimed to be land in the sky. Therefore, they're claiming that there's soil in the sky. You know, there's not soil on the ground where we typically find soil and have found new lands. Nah, new soil, that's out in the sky. Is it? Yeah. You need materials, you need stuff to build stuff. Get it from the sky. That's what they're telling you. It's utterly absurd. Sometimes they tell you can get stuff from comets and that, don't they? We could mine this comet. We could mine this light in the sky. How absurd. We're not getting any materials from the sky. Beyond the cycles of gases and liquids. Hey,
But that
Adam!
Hello.
Hello!
Happy Easter,
It's good
everyone.
to have you. Happy days.
Happy days. Been starting my own work.
But the question about their geometry would invoke conversations like that, where people do assert there's soil in the sky. You know.
I don't know why people want this. I don't think they do want it. I think they just don't want it to be wrong. You know, people don't want to have been deceived. People don't want to look at the wider reaching implications. I've seen that in multiple comments recently. I don't know why people have started to contemplate this from a globe perspective. If you find out that there's a deception, and that deception is substantial in terms of the nature of reality, the globe lies fairly big, then they can lie to you about anything. And there's been several commenters pointing that out to other globe believers, that they must face their fear in a society that's based on lies, and your ability to be duped, being exploited left and right. It's kind of cringeworthy when you have to contemplate that. I laugh about it now. You're like, yeah, we're such simple creatures and we've been studied so well that we can be manipulated really easily. But if you, from the inside out, looking out from that manipulation, that is, try and recognise your shackles, these ain't shackles! How dare you call them shackles! That's what we get. $65 people watching.
Just
Please share the
lastly on
show. Some great information. I'll be covering a video, hopefully. Got a couple of videos that have been picked out. Is that John trying to get a word in?
Just to, no, it's me. Sorry. Just to finish up on the housekeeping questions. I'm forever trying to get people to your YouTube channel, and a lot of the conversations that take place, you have to have context of what's being spoken of about. So the housekeeping questions are great for newbies and new people to the subject, because they don't have to have context of what's being spoken of. The context is given there and then.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
agree.
like it's a
They're
part of the show
self-contained.
that people can listen to. Yeah.
Yeah, there is that advantage as well. In other words, if you are coming in from the outside perspective, keeping that connection between the arguments that people are familiar with, regardless of if they've been stacked up with a false narrative and false dichotomy about what flat earthers will say when I say false narrative, like stereotypes and such. When people are presented with that, that's how they're going to arrive. I can't change the paths in place to reach us. They're paths of nonsense. We used to describe the feast of nonsense and the path you're walking and the hill you roll down to get to this position where you either accept that you've been deceived and face the awful truth that there's probably a lot more lies out there if they can lie to you about something so substantive. Well, those kind of contemplations and decisions and roads that lead to where we are now, I can't forge better roads, especially when most of even those roads are cut off now, aren't they? They all lead to Simon now. So even those roads don't necessarily lead to us anymore. So it's a struggle
How
for
did
those
we
who
get into this?
trying to share the show. Go ahead, Neil.
How did we get into this anyway? Because John thought he might have another housekeeping question. So basically, we don't need any more housekeeping questions, and just keep the ones we have for the newbies. I don't see what the problem is.
Got to reassess these things, otherwise they become old and stale, and you don't actually know why you're doing them. Like, are we just doing this because it's tradition, because we've done it before? No, there is a grandiose purpose behind the housekeeping questions. They are very well thought out. People who hear them and haven't ever heard it discussed, or haven't realised why they've come to be housekeeping questions because they've only been here a year. Like, I just hear these questions a lot, and they've already been answered. And you go, yeah, well, the reason we keep them in is because it has a certain purpose that needs fulfilling for the people who arrive on that path. Now, they don't necessarily arrive on the path that's been forged. Maybe that's not a bad thing. When I'm asking people to share, those shares are very important because they forge new paths. You know, you might be putting this video in front of somebody that hasn't got an awareness of what the tarnished idea of a flat earther is. Many people haven't even been exposed to the idea or words flat earth before. I was one of them at some stage. So if you go, well, if I was someone at that stage and I just suddenly found a share on Facebook because somebody in my live audience right now heeded my call to action and went, oh, yeah, okay, fine, I will stick it on Facebook. I don't want to seem like an idiot. It's flat earth because it's in the title, but fine, as you're begging me. And they do it, and someone else like me back in the day just sees it and comes here immediately and hears any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. They suddenly have something resonate in their mind. They go, oh, I remember something about this 6-foot man at a beach or whatever. You know what I mean? Suddenly those things start to resonate, but they've already been pre-packaged in such a way that they've got an answer, and it started making their mind think about the way it's been phrased. Physical geometric sphere edge. You know, there's a certain phraseology to it that's very intentional. So I have no intention of dropping the housekeeping questions, but I love the fact they're being discussed, especially when it's from somebody in the negative. Should we keep these? It's like, good. If you don't ask those questions, those tools become blunt. They become rusty. You need to keep them polished. You need to keep them sharpened. You need to keep the people who are on the panels well aware of why they're being asked and the importance of them. I don't think we need all every day, though. I think that gets a bit dry. Go ahead.
Right. But you said it makes people think. Well, if you ask, do the stars have geometry? People's minds go to Eratosthenes, Kepler, the fundamentals of the religion.
Yeah.
And that's where we need them to be to understand how it's wrong.
No, I don't. It makes me cringe. I don't think so. Because they've got contradiction. They've got the distance is an infinite value when they actually do anything that we are going to lean on. So we're inviting. I've already said all this. We're inviting the false dichotomy, John.
Right. So are the housekeeping questions, though.
Yeah, but we're moving forward past them. I don't. That hasn't been born out of a glober coming to me arguing with me, has it? Us. Let's just say that differently. That hasn't been born out of a flat Earth debate with a ball-believing numpty, has it? 69 watching, nice. Please share the show.
You've never had a ball-believing numpty argue for orbits or...
I'm talking about Earth being measured flat in the first instance. With the stars, That's all we're doing. It's on screen now, right? Areas of equal elevation. That's our starting point, and their starting point is a GP measurement of Polaris for latitude. That's our starting point and their starting point. So as soon as we start saying, well, if these stars got geometry, you're right, we're inviting them to think about, oh, right, well, Kepler says they are this distance. What about if they were doing this on screen now? Now they'd be infinite, wouldn't they? Infinite distance.
I think
Right, now,
we're on dodgy ground.
Well,
Stars.
Let's just hear Adam. I'm sorry to cut you off. I know this is
Well-
your point. We'll come immediately back to you, not me, John. Go ahead, Adam.
Sorry, John. Just a quick. I think we're on dodgy ground. With a lot of the other stuff, we can make positive statements. We can with celestial navigation, but there's a little like last week when we're getting into the realms of what the stars are, how do we measure them, what are we measuring? Like I said, it puts us in a place where, for me, I'm much happier to make a positive statement that I do not know. And I use the phrase the majesty, it's the mystery, it's my lack of knowledge. I'm probably humiliated that I'll never know. But that when we get to the stars, dealing with them like that, if we go into anything Kepler-y based, it's all in their paradigm, everything. In my paradigm, it is just, if I'm being honest, just ignorance and marveling at their majesty. I can't do anymore, and I don't think I ever will be able to do anymore. So I think just
Yeah, but
an
Adam,
admittance
Neil.
of my position is I think in the long run going to strengthen us. You can't attack honesty, and if you make it quite categorically clear that you make no claim, all you can say is they defy everything that we have knowledge about of how things work in a terrestrial sense. If we admit that position, there's very little to attack. If you listen to last week, people are trying to build straw men to attack us. I've finished.
John, go ahead.
Right. But the positive claim isn't on us. We're asking for evidence for the positive claim. That's what the whole foundation of the housekeeping questions are.
That's correct.
Is there's a positive claim made? We want evidence for it. We don't have to make a positive claim. It's not our burden. We shouldn't take it on.
And they've removed their own burden when they make them infinitely distant. To work from the center of the sphere out to the infinitely distant, because it's actually working with a parallel plane of the sky, star base around it, based on the perspective view, based on you standing on the outside edge of the protractor that you're measuring in hell. That's an infinite distance when they're actually doing anything functional for us. And we've never, I'll say again, not once has a glober come to me to make this positive assertion. Because they're not making a positive assertion. We are. So it's not formatable into a housekeeping question. We're not keeping house. We're not keeping the dust off the arguments that they've put forward that we've overcome in this instance. So to me, I'm just saying it a third time, let's just go with them what Adam said. We're on a slightly sticky wicket if we invite their positive claim where they haven't to date made one. They are just using a flat earth in this instance. We've started pointing that out on the front foot. So to say, from my personal perspective, when I say I'm trying to empower you, the audience, to move forward on the front foot with this positive claim we make, as opposed to I'm trying to get you to move forward on the positive foot with a flat earth measurement we're taking. Let's invite our opponents to explain how that flat earth measurement would work with orbits.
Yeah, that's the point, though, isn't it?
I didn't say that, though. That's not the housekeeping
I know it's
question.
not. I know it isn't what you said, but I'm trying to compare and contrast with moving forward on the positive foot of claims we can make rather than arguments we've overcome.
Right. The claims we can make, okay, and is the reality, and it's also our ignorance, is what I said. But from that point on, all you've got is the claims we can make in reality, which is whatever they are up there, we can take a flat Earth elevation angle. That's all that's done. Now, at any point moving forward, be it orbits, Kepler, anything, it's instantly just a paradigm to recognize that point, to take it past a flat Earth elevation angle, you suddenly invoke a paradigm, no matter whether it's a flat earther or a baller, because we don't know. So just to recognize the second they step out of reality is the second they invoke anything, be it soil in the sky, orbits, everything's a fairy tale. Just admit it. We don't know. We don't know how they work. They don't work how everything else works, but we can use them in the way that they don't work how everything else works to navigate the surface we dwell upon.
I love
The
that.
only
I just
information-
want to say that that's probably why I'm so vehemently against you in this regard, John. Because while you were saying, "Oh, we got to get people thinking about Kepler," I suddenly shudder and cringe, and I'm like, I want to step away from the lies. When Adam says, "Now we've just got to admit we don't know," and I go, "Oh, this is getting juicy," because suddenly I salivate. I feel like that kid that's like, "I want to find out." Then, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, it behaves like this, and we can describe it, and we map our world with it. Okay, but what? That's it. That's what we've got. Yeah, and it works. Yeah, okay, and we do use it. Yeah, we do. Okay, so that's the end of that argument. But when Adam says we don't know, when they start asking us about height, I don't know. Yeah, well, you must. No, I mustn't. Doesn't have any functional use in navigation. For my
Eventually,
argument
we
that it's
can
flat.
know.
Neil, I'm talking. Doesn't have any functional use for navigation in my argument, and that was the end of my argument with you, Globe Believer. Now, you and I, once you've conceded that, and that is all that will happen with a Globe Believer at that stage, once we have, he'll be John then, and we'll talk about the majesty of the stars, because we don't know. And then it becomes the best bit of the discussion. So we can now ponder the world that we've been deceived with open eyes, and an acknowledgement of our ignorance. It's not going to be used against me, because I don't need to know how high they are. I wasn't going to ascribe them a height anyway. Why are you doing it? Well, because there's part of navigation that seems to work a bit like using triangles for a lighthouse, and it isn't. So it should, because you're a flat earther. No, it shouldn't. We still just use angles to stars. The fact that they don't change with altitude makes no difference to my argument when I don't know what they are. They do function that way, though. That's a fact. But about me not knowing, I just smile. I go, wow, maybe I'll be the one who finds out what the stars are. I doubt it. But it's nice to know that I've suddenly reached a point of ignorance. It's not just all known and the powers that should not be are going to tell me. I've reached a point of ignorance. Great.
Can I say something?
Well,
You can let John,
hold on
because he's
one sec.
itching.
I
John,
would
then
like to
Neil.
point out-
Yeah, John, then Neil.
I would like to point out this entire conversation that's taken 36 minutes has been born off the back of just this one question. If it's not worth asking, why do we spend 36 minutes talking about it?
Because we're deciding the relevance of introducing a false dichotomy when we're trying to move forward on the front foot to only assert our positive claim. The fact that it might invite a new claim from them that the stars work off a globe is up to them to make the positive assertion, not for us to invite, in my humble opinion.
But any housekeeping question invites a fallacy.
Yeah, and
Any
Neil
one
said
of them
that.
you ask.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. And Neil's said it from the start. Neil, go ahead, because I'm agreeing about. I'll just agree with what, so that we remember what Neil was, what I'm agreeing with. Yeah, they did until 2024. Now I'm saying when we move forward into 2024, I only want to move forward on the front foot. I don't want to go, we need more housekeeping. The hotel is spotless. So, yeah, that Globe Hotel is as clean as can be. And moving forward, I don't want to make a new housekeeping question. I haven't said it that way till now. Go ahead, Neil.
I like what Adam said, and I think that we may be able to find out one day, because it does say in the Bible that there's nothing that man cannot do. So maybe one day we will be able to, but it keeps it open, right?
In
Well,
death,
don't know
perhaps.
right now.
Yeah, in death, maybe.
I wasn't denying that, Neil, but I am
No, I know.
honest enough to
I like
say
what you
that
said.
now, with everything
That's
I'm
not what it meant
I
when
don't
the
think
Bible
it's
said
Hold on,
that.
there's three people. Let's get some order. Right. I want to go Adam, hopefully briefly, then John, then Neil.
What do you mean that's not what it meant? They were building a tower to the skies, and that's why you had to confuse the tongues, because there was nothing that man cannot do.
Right, but
That's what it
the thing. You
says.
just put those two instances together. When he says there's nothing that man can't do is through him and through faith, it didn't mean that they should look to the stars or to the horizons because those men are fools, which the Bible also says. It didn't mean physically
but
you
they
could
were
do
building.
anything outside of,
They,
you know,
They were building a tower. That's why you had to confuse the tongues.
We got that.
So
yeah,
when
but you're not
got
connecting
that.
that. Like, it's not like that's connected to your premise. You're just saying that.
It isn't.
I get what you're saying.
Thank you, Eli.
you had to
Perfect.
stop them for a
You've cut
reason.
Neil, he's cut you off, and I'm glad he has. Thank you, Eli. Back to Adam, who will hopefully round at this point.
Yes. So when I said what I said, I wasn't implying that we will never. I'm just being realistic about what we know, what's available, what resources are available. It's not to say others, powers that be, may know already. Yeah, but I don't. It's not available to me. And there's nothing that I can even imagine here that would enable me to get to that level of knowledge. So there's no point for me pretending. But you know,
Stop, John.
future policy is fine.
Fine, John.
Just to back to the point, we talk about inviting a false dichotomy. Well, we're not thinking about the other side of this false dichotomy, and that's flat earthers who are trying to make the same assertions that globe earthers are. This is a debate that's happening internally right now within our own community, where people are telling us that it's asinine to claim that the stars do not obey our concepts of geometry.
I've considered
I
this
think it is a valid question to ask, since there are people out there that are making positive claims about them. It's valid.
Perfect. I've considered this also. Would you not concede that at the point that I have this discussion, that very specific discussion with a flat earther, in terms of his conceptualization of his sky, we, he and I, or she and I, or they and I, would have to concede that Earth is measured flat to have that discussion? Would you agree that that must be the case for us to move forward in that discussion?
No, I wouldn't, because one just Friday was willing to blow the Earth up to ignore the ground.
He was making the false dichotomy argument from a globe perspective as a flat earther. That's not the same. I'm saying to have the discussion as a flat earther that you were saying you said on our own side, you've got people who describe their version of their geometry for their stars, which we can overcome and would discuss. It's part of flat earth debate when you're talking about the nature of reality. But in that specific instance, they would also and must also concede a horizontal plane of reference to describe the angle measurements, for example, to have the discussion about what they claim for their geometry of their stars. They must concede Earth is measured flat to move forward in that discussion. Would you not agree?
Right. So by not addressing it, we're allowing a false dichotomy to go unanswered, because there's flat earthers asserting that is a positive position that's being ascribed to us. So I think it's still relevant.
Other
Can I
than
interject for a minute?
other than at the
Sure.
point that you say yes and agree that we both must agree. Earlier, I said that would be the point that I would stop the discussion. So we understand and agree together that Earth is measured flat. Now, if that discussion continues because a flat earther then wants to ascribe geometry to the stars because of an ether belief or whatever they've got, then I would have the debate with them. But that's the nature of the show as a whole. When you've got a claim for the nature of Earth, rather than something that should be incorporated into housekeeping, I feel, I'm not saying no, moving into 2024 for the reasons I've given.
Right. But you say in the beginning of the show, it's about the nature of reality. So if it's not about that, then what is it about?
So you're suggesting that I should invite with a question about the geometry of the stars, a premise that could only be debated upon if you concede that Earth is measured flat, to have that discussion? Because of the way you've positioned it with people who are claiming things,
like that.
I just a little bit of caveat. Because of the way you framed this with the flat earthers in this instance making a claim about the nature of Earth, based purely on the way I say my intro, I've got to concede, haven't I? I've got to say that this would be incorporatable as a housekeeping question because there is a claim about the nature of Earth being made by anyone. It doesn't matter that they're flat earthers. My argument doesn't hold water at that point. Kudos, because now I do think this must be incorporated as a housekeeping question. That is to say, is there any... I've forgotten how you phrased it in terms of the geometry of the stars, John. You get the pleasure because you're the one doing it.
Oh, I didn't want it as a housekeeping question. I just want to talk about it.
But that's the way to talk about it on a regular basis, because In this instance, it's actually not born out of the Earth being measured flat as a bold assertion, as a positive claim. It's not born out of that, actually, is it? It's born out of the elevation angle measurements and celestial navigation argument. When you're talking about how we deal with the stars, for them they deal with the geometry of the stars on a globe Earth that we debunk with celestial navigation. But further to that, there are people who accept that we measure angles to stars, but still make etheric assertions about what they are, where they are, and how the sky behaves. So for those particular individuals, they're still making claims on the nature of Earth. And we have, unlike my rebuttal earlier, well, who's debating us about it to make it a housekeeping question? Ironically, this housekeeping question comes from flat earthers, but that is worthy of housekeeping, which is how you started this off, right? You know, you're now making it seem like it's my idea somehow. I don't know how you've done that, but that's smart also. You're smart. I don't know how this is happening. Your idea is becoming my idea, which is how you get things done, I suppose, which is good.
Can I make a
But
suggestion?
yeah, I didn't really.
Just let me just get
Oh, yeah,
John's
go ahead.
response then. Yes.
Go ahead. My bad. My bad.
John, then whoever that was from Discord.
I just wanted to talk about the geometry or the lack thereof. And like you said, if it does evolve into a housekeeping question, that's cool. But I think it's an interesting topic.
It is. It's a whole basis of their worldview that they've sold us with Globe Earth. So obviously, not knowing means it's a worthy topic to be under the scrutiny and discussion of a flat Earth debate panel with anybody who can join, because we might find out, right, Adam? This might lead into a discussion that actually leads to a bit more understanding, where we can only not feign and plead ignorance. Go on, whoever it was from Discord, unless Adam responds.
That was me.
Adam, go ahead.
That
Other
was
Adam
me.
from
It's
Discord.
Adam. How are you?
Very well. What should we call you rather than Adam? Price.
Yeah, it's
Price.
just Adam.
I'll call you Price.
Price. Yeah,
Perfect.
that's fine too. All right. I can only speak as a chatter and as a basically, like a troll, but on your side, and that's the truth of it. But how it would go is you guys would say something, or you guys would talk to somebody and say something to them, and then someone harps on an idea. So measured flat. Is it measured flat? Are you sure? Yeah, yeah. But what I guess I'm getting at, and also that geometry thing that's been going on for about a week or two now. But thinking about it, maybe a thing that could help is temporary, even housekeeping questions. Like a towel, like a towel when you spill some wine or something. Uh, just like that geometry of the stars, or just like any evidence that it's not measured flat. Just as easy as that. At least that would bring people to the conversation with a specific goal or end in mind. Because if there's people in the YouTube chat right now like, "Ooh, you can't use a triangle. You can't use a triangle." Okay, but it's right there in every single manual you see. It's in the words. It's even in the words. They write it down. Imagine a right triangle.
I know.
This
right,
is
that's
where
all I
we've
had.
got to be careful, then, isn't it? Again, you see, what are we talking here? I'm not making a claim they're not geometric in this case. You've got to be. There is no claim for us, because what do we go to? We move away from anything and we start talking about celestial navigation. Different topic.
Yeah, an investigation that we may or may not undergo as a result of our inquiries here and our recognition of our ignorance, as highlighted by Adam, doesn't mean that it changes the factual statements about navigation. They don't change. It's like when someone tries to pin on me, well, this happened on Friday in the politics server. One of the participants starts to inquire about the majesty of the heavens in terms of their lack of change in angle. But as soon as I concede, yeah, that's something that we have to take into consideration, it is what it is. He says, yeah, because it's in respect to the radial value and its increase, because he's concave, with respect to a spherical surface that we'll get angles from. You're like, okay, well, at this point, you've tried to incorporate something we don't know about as a defense for your curve angles. Now, when they do that, we only, and I'm sure Adam will agree when I pass over to him in a second, lean on the how things are actually done, the facts of the matter when it comes to celestial navigation. It's done on a flat plane. The angle doesn't change as you rise up to the star. Let's just say that in a more concise way so it's clear. The Earth is being measured flat with an angle, and as you raise up in elevation, the angle, parallel to the ground, if you ascertain it parallel to the ground, remains the same at all altitudes. So your angle measurement to the star doesn't change as you raise up. That's the premise. Okay, that's in normal geometric terms when measuring something in a terrestrial manner. Seems weird. You raise up typically, and things will reduce in their angular measurement as you raise with respect to them. That's how you expect things to behave. The stars don't do that. Now, the fact that they don't do that has no bearing on anything. That is what it is. Now, the fact we will measure them with angles off a flat baseline, again, is what it is. There's no ambiguity, there's no debate, there's no discussion, there's no questioning what is done when we measure angles to stars. Why are you asking me about why they would do that? I don't know. They do that, and we utilize that fact to navigate with them flat on a flat Earth. That's it. Beyond that, once I accept, and you, if you're opposing me, accept those facts, not debating points, we could, probably won't because the person will be in defiance, discuss why they might do that as a folly, as an exploration that may not actually bear any fruit and useful nature, useful information, but we might know something more about what the stars are. But that's separate to how they're dealt with, how they're used. And that questioning and discussion is something that would bring a wry smile to my face. Oh, so we don't know what the stars are. No, we don't. I knew that quite some time ago. And it brought a smile to my face then. But how they do behave and what we can show to be facts won't change with my investigation if I choose to have it. And it won't be used, more importantly, as a debating point against me because I don't know why they stay the same angle as we raise up. I don't know and I don't care. They do. Does it make any difference? Does it work on a globe? I don't care. It has to be measured flat. I'm done.
Yeah. I would. I can't prove even that they're not in a fixed location. I don't know how they do what they do, but they do. So, like, if I challenge somebody with gas pressure without container, there's a purpose, and I can make that definitive statement that you can't have gas pressure without a container. But I can't make any statement that you can't have the stars geometric or you must have the stars geometric. I can't make that statement here. As soon as I go to describing what they are, I lose, and I'm in a world of just nonsense, aren't I? Making stories up. I've got to keep it. The whole point of any strength for us, if it's going to be a housekeeping, is with regards to the process of celestial navigation and how you attain an elevation angle.
I mean,
That
if I
seems
could chime in,
a little bit weak though. Why not just apply, perspective to the stars or apply geometry to the stars and see what happens?
Don't work.
If you
Go ahead, no tanks.
So then that is a statement you can make.
Yeah, it is a statement you can make. An antagonistic.
It works with the sun.
Go on, no tanks. You go ahead.
I just wanted to chime in and say that it does work with the sun. You can change have a vertical change and measure a different angle to the sun.
That's correct. There is small adjustments for the sun and moon, but we're talking about the star, the main background star field.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've never seen anybody test it, so I don't know if it's true or false.
It's another flat Earth proof. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. There's a guy on Globebusters baffled everybody with his military sun tracking stuff. It's very complicated, but there are mine. I don't think you really need to worry about it, but you can get more precise information. My knowledge is a little ropey on it, but yeah, there are adjustments. but not, like I say, for the star field. That's the important thing.
Thank you,
If they're
Celine.
lying to us, right? If they're lying to us and they've been lying to us all this time, and you don't know, and you're only speculating, then why would there be a reason for me to believe anything you're saying? And why couldn't I even think that you are part of the lie too?
Well, because we give
Well, you're
information that's
welcome to think
And
that,
you're
aren't
just
you?
part of
one of us
you're
is going
just
to
part
answer
of
him.
the system. Hang on, and you're just part of the system that is just set up to make us argue amongst each other, so we don't look at the other stuff that's going on.
You could assume that but you has to go on, or you or anyone watching has to go on the fruit of our labour. In this instance, you can verify what we're talking about. There's no trust involved. Now, when you say, "Well, do I just believe you?"
Yeah,
Well,
but you.
what I'm
Yeah, but
talking about.
largely I hear none of you have done anything.
Well,
So
this is
you
why I
haven't
said
done
it's
it,
important to,
and then you want me to
earlier.
believe what you're saying about it. I mean, that's a bit silly.
Let's just address him because he's rinsed and repeated it while I was in the middle of addressing it.
It's
My,
a
my
fair
address
point.
to
It
that
goes to
was
our,
to say, hold on, Adam.
sorry.
My address to that was to say, no, you don't believe what we say when we lay down facts you can verify in terms of how celestial navigation's performed. Those are things that you can check easily. You don't have to take anything at face value or at what we say is our word. There's no belief involved. So no, you don't have to believe us. If you don't trust what we say, in other words, you suspect that what we say is actually intentionally wrong and us lying to deceive you as a part of a system that you have suggested leaves us in perpetual debate, then the only way to check if we have intentionally deceived you with incorrect information is to check the information. And when you find it's not wrong, then you go, oh, obviously he's not deceiving me with the correct information. How could I? That makes no sense.
Well, you haven't really said anything yet that you know to be true
I have.
yourselves.
I've been out on
You know,
boats
you've got
since.
10 years. You've
I'm
got
about to
10
contradict
years, and
you.
you don't
I'm
seem
about
to
to
come up with it.
contradict you, and you're going to appeal to something. No, I have. I've told you. My sister owned several boats, and I've been out and watched
Yeah,
them.
so
Why are
you
you
haven't
chanting
done
through
it.
me? I'm just going to ask
Doesn't
the mods
matter.
to remove you, Edibert. If I contradict you by saying no, I have seen this done. This is a process I'm familiar with because my sister and her now deceased husband had several boats. I've watched it done. Now, as I was saying earlier, there's no belief involved. It's just checking of information. You can check what we say and whether or not we say things that are just made up because we're liars. Therefore, yeah, we're part of a system. If you found something to be untrue and you could show, look, you're intentionally deceiving people with this information, it's obvious you'd know this X and it isn't correct, then you'd have grounds for what you're suggesting. But that isn't the case. You can check what we say to be factually accurate. I'm not just here to leave people in perpetual debate. That's my show. I want a debate. That's the name of my show that I developed as an individual to pay my bills with.
He's not actually pointed to
The thing
anything
with
that's
your
factually
sister
inaccurate
is
and
Hold on,
describes
John.
what it
Hold on,
was.
hold on,
He's
John.
just
Hold on,
invoked
John. Go ahead, Edibert.
I mean, the thing with your sister's kind of, it's hearsay at this point, and it's, secondary information, not something you've done. And, I don't know whether she did tell you that when she used the sextant, therefore the Earth is flat. But for me to verify, in reality, when I walk around in reality, I do not see a flat surface that I could say, wow, that's flat, that's measurably so. So I am checking what you're saying, and in my
I gotcha.
reality, it doesn't comport with that.
Yeah,
Hang
I
on.
see.
So,
Thank you,
so
Edibert. I'd just
that's,
like to respond to that. Thank you. I heard the
well,
standard.
why you cut in before
I
I?
heard the standard that you laid down. Please, can someone mute him? Because otherwise, you won't hear my response in Discord. My audience will. No, in response to you, the standard we laid down was not what Edibert observes as he wanders around. The standard we laid down was elevation angle measurements, for example, to Polaris for latitude. Those are standards that are verifiable without trusting what I have seen that you now deny as hearsay. Yeah, it's me saying it after seeing it. Yeah, that's not hearsay. That's my first-hand account of watching somebody perform these operations on a boat at sea with a sextant in their hand. Not hearsay. Yeah, it's hearsay if you repeat what I've told you I saw. I saw it as a first-hand experience, is me experiencing and describing it to my audience while I was sat on a bloody boat while it happened. Now, you're decrying of it by saying, well, it doesn't meet the standard of what I see when I wander around. That's not the standard we laid down, though, is it, when we're talking about elevation angle measurements? That's what we talk about, that you can verify. Those are the bits that we use as our proof. You want to hand wave them and say, yeah, but by my standard, I don't just see it flat when I wander around, so I've got to, therefore, distrust what you say as hearsay. What garbage kind of standard? Are you just trying to poison the well here? It certainly seems so. You're not listening to what I'm actually laying down as a standard you can go off and verify. In terms of latitude, it's easy to understand. We've explained it to you multiple times. Those are the standards, not what I say with my sister.
Right, he got you into
what you saw with
a
your
false
sister
dichotomy
is
argument right off the jump because he's talking about beliefs and we're talking about facts. They're not the same thing. He's trying to mix the two so he can call us liars.
I didn't say anything to him, so you can't blame me.
I'm not calling you a liar. I never called you a liar. I never did. I said that I hear lots of people say things, but nobody's done anything, and tell me that I have to compare it with the things they haven't done. And when you say the Earth is measured flat, when I look about it in my reality, I don't see it. So I question how you did that. And when I hear you tell me, it's not an answer.
Thank you for repeating
That's
your
all.
claim for a third time. I've heard it the third time.
I know. Well, I'm sorry
and then
to
I've now,
upset Neil. I don't wanna
now I'm going to
upset Neil.
respond. Now he's not going to let me. He thinks by repeating it and just carrying on jabbering, the third rendition won't be heard. Can someone mute him because he's now not letting me respond to the third rendition of what I've just summarised and he's completely ignored. Yeah, I heard it. I heard it 3 times. And when I've explained, yes, your standard of, well, you haven't done anything. Well, other than going out on a boat, watching my sister perform this operation, and then literally years later, having me explain to her what celestial navigation entailed in terms of flat Earth measurement, and her going, yeah, I've done it, Nathan. You watch me do it. Why are you going through this with me? While she's nodding along. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've only learnt this year. She's like, I had boats. Do you remember being on the boats? Something I'd blacked out of my memory because there was a terrible death involved. So I blacked it all out, forgot it all happened. And then to me, learning about celestial navigation, which isn't what I did, she did it. I just forgot about all the things it entailed while we were out on their boats. Now I remember and disseminate to an audience how I was literally involved in the process, having it explained to me by my sister, more accurately her husband at the time, the person that died, explained to me how it bloody worked. Frankly, boring the pants off me. Gotta be honest, I wanted to sunbathe on those boats. But there we go, he explained celestial navigation, he'd spent money on getting trained in it, so had my sister, they were both qualified. And having watched the process being done, with a sextant in hand, I feel like I can deliver first-hand experience, not basing my audience's faith on that story of me on a boat, but the process that was involved that I could say secondhand, I watched being done and had explained to me while it was being done on an actual boat at sea. Yeah, you can't say that's not first-hand experience, that I'm not inviting my audience to trust me on. I'm saying the process that was explained to me has an actual proof within it that you can check. You can check how the process is done. That doesn't involve any belief, doesn't involve any trust. It certainly doesn't involve how you experience things when you wander around and don't see it's flat. That's not comparable. No trust involved here, Edabear.
Right. Does he not see level as horizontal? I mean, everyone else sees level as horizontal. That's how you experience it. Why would you say that you don't experience level as horizontal? That doesn't make sense. That is exactly what you experience.
I look out the window.
This is a dude, right? This is a dude that just wanders round. This is how he decides things in how he gets a grasp of it. He just wanders round, looks at them, and if it doesn't comport to what he thinks, listen to the standards of what's being put to him. He's attacked him as if he's the arbiter of celestial navigation. No, right? What's Nathan done for 10 years? Why don't you, for like half a day, go and read about celestial navigation? The thing you should be critiquing, not Nathan's experience of it, how much he did of it, how much he didn't do it, is kind of irrelevant to the validity of the process and what it entails, Elder Bear.
I had a
Hang on a sec. Hang on a sec.
Go ahead, Adam,
I
yeah.
didn't mention celestial navigation conversation. Nathan brought it up, and it kind of confirms to me as a member of his audience that thank you. I realised that something traumatic had happened to you when you keep bringing up his sister, and that's why I wonder why you keep bringing her up.
Oh,
For
wow.
me, it's second
What a
hand,
pathetic
and
weasel you
you
are,
know your
sir.
He's a
sister should be the
wanker.
one.
What an
Are we going to let
absolute...
the
Now
boys
you're
keep talking?
There's a point, mods, in Discord where somebody should just be removed. That's just so distasteful.
your stuff is all
You should just
observation.
be
All of
removed,
your
mods.
stuff,
Can you
Adam.
just at least mute this guy whilst you decide whether or not that kind of scummy,
Yeah, he wants it to derail the show. I said
filthy,
that from the beginning.
low moral attack should be
All
permitted?
all
Now,
all of the
can
things
we
you said to me are
Discord? Can we
observation,
mute
but
him?
my
Can we
observation
mute the
isn't
moped? Because
any
I
good.
don't want to talk to him. Genuinely, what a piece of work.
I don't either, Adam. Remove
I
him.
think at that point, I'm done talking to that scumbag. Is there anybody in Discord that can deal with him, please?
He is muted right now. If you guys want to remove from the server, just make the call and he's gone.
Scummy
Okay.
behaviour is what it is. I don't know why
Yeah,
Ed Bear's
you don't have
motivated
to
that
take
way.
offence. I think that's filthy.
He's a scumbag.
I'm used
There's
to it.
no doubt about that.
Something that I was,
I know,
I was
but
working
Let
with
Adam
yesterday, I
summarise
was
why Adam is so disgusted. Feel free, Adam.
I don't want to go into the detail, but I just think there's levels of discourse. There's levels of ad hom will take. And then there's that, which is just second-rate high school psychology scumbag.
Adam, let me ask you a question. Did you think he was genuine at any point in that conversation?
No, he never has been, but there's a level that people should be allowed to descend to, and that was too far.
In
Yeah,
any event.
I was jotting something down yesterday. I was kind of just starting with the idea of it, but it contrasts to what you guys are talking about right now.
Feel free.
And what I was jotting down on just a piece of paper was kind of exactly this, right? So you get 2-3 observers, right, in a vertical change, right, like one at the top of the mountain, one at the bottom, and you got to somehow make sure that it's a straight line. But you get the elevation angle to the sun from that. Now, can we trace and the divergence of those angles to a point to find out something about the sun? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what we know about it is GP positions. It's similar. You can navigate with the sun.
Yeah, sure, yeah, but we take
Are
that
you
from
saying?
our baseline.
Are you
I
planning to
just
try
I
to
just
use angular size to try to figure out its actual size?
maybe distance. I don't know about angular size.
When it comes to distance, it's
Well,
got
we're
the
doing
same.
it again.
It's
We're
got the
doing it
same
again.
problems. Go ahead, Adam.
We're doing it again. Why? No, the process of celestial navigation, which requires the surface we're going to navigate to be flat. Yeah, that's all it does. We can't take anything from this, any nuances, and extrapolate statements of definitive statements about the celestials. Any of them. If you go there,
Well, this would just be
you're going to
of
get
angles.
undone.
Go ahead.
This would just be of angle. So if you measured, I don't know, 45 degrees at at sea level, and then you measured it, I guess 44 degrees, 1,000 feet higher, you can't work with those lines and where they would meet.
Okay, let me try and work you through this.
Why?
Hopefully, you'll be tolerant of it. First, as I've said to John earlier on this show, for us to have this discussion, there's a prerequisite flat Earth measurement that we both must concede to, the angle off the baseline for the 45 or 44 degree angle that we're going to discuss. So before we move forward, you concede Earth's being measured flat to have this discussion moving forward.
Yeah, everybody knows that horizontal is level. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so we're measuring Earth flat to have this discussion. Fine. Okay, we've got the sun at 45 degrees, and then we wait. And then it's at 44 degrees in your example. Okay, with that in mind, at a certain stage, it will reach the horizon. Is it hitting the horizon? That is to say, it's hit the ground. It's at 0 degrees.
No.
It's smashed into the ground, has it?
No, and that's not even my example. My example is not at different times. It's the exact same time in a vertical change, measuring that if you know you go 1,000 feet. I don't know it. I'd have to do it in reality. I'd have to see what
Oh,
happens.
I see what you mean. That's just quite that's quite a specific effect that happens at a certain time of day, though. When you're talking about how the sun behaves with respect to the horizon when it's at the limit, we're talking about opening up and or if you decrease your height, decreasing the angle to the sun, to the I was going to say star to the sun in that respect. Well, the effect that you get with a reduction or increase of angle to surface induces an effect with the sun that isn't the same beyond, I'm going to say 15 degrees, but let's just say 20, just to be on the safe side. From that point, when you're measuring the angles to it, you can utilize it in the same way the stars in the day work for GP positions of the sun if you choose to. But the effect that you're describing sort of infers that the behavior of the sun at the horizon is indicative of the measurement of an angle to give you height. It isn't. It still will risk, regardless of your change in height, bringing the sun back, for instance. How it behaves as it recedes towards the horizon and the GP positions that it's over has a relationship with the flat ground, but no relationship to the height of the sun at all. Same with the moon, same with the stars. That bit can be inferred, regardless of the fact that the sun's bigger. It has a wider angular size, means that you can change the behavior of it when you increase the angle to the surface. That is just to say you widen your angle of view to it. And because it's physically bigger, you can get it to behave in certain ways, one of which being disappearing and then coming back. But that doesn't mean it behaves like that through the rest of the angles above probably about 10 degrees, actually. But anyway, I'm done.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean, it really came to mind just when somebody in like the 24/7 was like, well, proof of the globe is you stand up and you see the sunset again. And I know that there's not a globe, right? But I'm thinking that is it. It is interesting in the regards to a change in the vertical and measuring a degree change and the effects. And these are divergent, lines from a point from the center of the sun. I mean, you could get the angular size, but then the center is where we're trying to get. And then if you trace these back and you keep these angles, I mean, I don't see why we can't come up with something.
I'll tell you why. So the bit where I said, does the sun crash into the ground? If you're going to measure angular size, or sorry, an angle to the sun for height, then effectively it's getting lower as it recedes to the horizon. That's essentially what you're suggesting. That side of the triangle that you're using for the measurement for the trig is receding. Does that mean the sun's getting lower? No, it isn't. It's going over a piece of land further over there. And what you perceive that to be is it going towards the horizon. What's it really doing? Fact. It's moving over a bit of land over there. We know, we've tracked it. Yeah, you've got solar noon over there now on a different bit of land, probably out in the sea. Doesn't matter. My point is that when you've got an example that a flat earther can present with a coin against a table, you can get the coin to disappear as it recedes further along the table. And then you raise up and the coin comes back. Well, imagine the same coin, but the camera position stays the same. It's reached the point where the coin has disappeared in the length of the camera's vision. Yeah? So the coin disappears, but then you pick up the coin and raise it up and then just carry on, moving up with the coin in your hand. Well, if you're looking down the barrel of the lens of the camera, the coin appears as you pick it up and then just carries on upwards as you move it further and further and further up. Well, that's the effect that you get with the sun when you're looking at it from your vantage point, having receded towards the horizon and gone into the most limited of angle. Okay, you get higher and you see it come back because you've widened your angular resolution to the sun. But in terms of it just physically moving, let's say at sunrise, towards your position, it's getting closer and closer and closer to being above you. Let's say, for the sake of this example, you happen to be on a piece of ground that the sun travels directly over. You have the sun at your zenith at solar noon. Well, when you watch the sun rising, it is effectively coming towards your GP position. And that's the same in both directions as it comes towards you or goes away. It is literally moving over a different piece of land. But when you wire your brain to say, I can get a height from that, no, you can't. It will not ever give you that.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were on it. Whether it was that we would be quantifying perspective to the sun and only the sun, or seeing where these angles would meet. I mean, I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were on it.
Nothing in the sky in terms of the sun, the moon, or the stars will ever offer their positional information from the geometric measurements and triangles that we use. Trig won't give you their height. That is the bottom line for all of them. There's no exceptions. With anything else that has a physical position, we can use that. We can use those triangles to find out how far it is, how high it is. If you've got a jumbo jet in the distance, if you know what the jet is, so you can scale it with its own size, because then you can calculate all of that just by looking at it and using angles and trig to find out how far or how high. All worthy of use and all used daily, literally daily. But for the stars, those rules don't apply. They just don't. Stars and sun and moon, all celestial objects don't obey what we consider to be standard Earth-based terrestrial geometry. None of them obey that. That is actually the cyclical start of this live discussion from John. Kudos, by the way, John. It has developed literally an hour and a half of conversation, because that is the full circle coming back to it, right? Do the stars have geometry, John? You can round out this point. You can have all the kudos too, because it is your point that's developed this entire discussion. I'll even put it as
I will make the statement that no, they don't, but I am open to being proven wrong if someone would like to do that.
It's a worthy question of being asked is the main point, right, John? And it's you that asked it.
Well, yeah, because we usually end up with a false dichotomy, like y'all said before, and a lot of times flat earthers try to figure out like the height of the heavens to be put in that false dichotomy position. So maybe that's something worth educating people on, that it doesn't work that way for the stars.
I've made a lot of comment, John, on this, but I joined late. I don't think I've actually heard the suggested question. Would you humour me and
We haven't had one
repeat
yet.
it?
We haven't come up with one yet.
What was that?
He's saying, what's the housekeeping question that's under discussion? Well, there hasn't actually been one, let alone one to refine yet. Other than do the stars have geometry?
Evidence?
Go on, John.
Yeah, is there any evidence that the stars obey geometry?
That will be the starting point for our refinement. Is there any evidence that the stars have geometry? And that will be my how I phrase the title of this live stream. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
Any evidence that the angle to the sun changes in the vertical when you change? And I would say yes, definitely.
What?
Yeah, does the angle that you get to the sun change when you change your vertical position? I mean, that's definitely a yes. There's geometry involved.
When it's at the horizon.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just using that. But it could be at any position other than noon, obviously.
All right, so that's perspective, right? You want to go with perspective?
Yeah, but we can I mean, yeah, there's evidence of that, but I mean, it's not like it's your task to do this, but it can be. I would say it can be quantified. It's already qualified. We see it. We can do it. We can perform that. But quantifying it would be something else. And then what would we be quantifying? Would it be perspective?
Basically.
Well, secondly, is the sun the stars?
No, they behave differently.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we're talking about something different then. It's interesting,
Oh
but
yeah, I mean,
you can't figure out a height from that.
I don't think he's right,
I don't
though.
know. I tried to
Unless
see
I'm
if the
very much
phenomenon
mistaken.
occurs.
with the exception of what happens at the horizon, you can still use the sun and its GP position. It obeys the same rules once it gets above a certain point. You can use it in the same way during the day to navigate. The only difference is you have to use it in multiple positions, so it takes a lot longer. But you can still use it in the same way because it has GP position. That is to say, there is positions where the sun is above at a given time, and we know when and where. Therefore, for navigation purposes, it's just as useful. But obviously, having a whole multitude of navigational positioning stars above your head that you can measure to that are in the almanac is much quicker and easier.
Yeah, I don't have an answer. I would have to just do it. I don't have the answer. I couldn't say yes or no. I would just say that I imagine that it would be yes. But I'd hope it's yes.
Hope what, yes?
Right.
The stars. I don't have any evidence of it that I can. Not an actual measurement of it. No.
It definitely isn't an actual measurement, other than to its GP position, which you have to have logged. You have to have prior knowledge to know where the sun is going to be above to utilize that. But we do, which is great.
I was just wondering, is he giving a response to the question, do the stars have geometry? Is that what this is in reference to when we're talking about the sun? Or is he just bringing this up to talk about the sun?
Well, I mean, I'm saying both. I'm saying it's definitely apparent that we change our angle as we change in the vertical with the sun. That's definitely apparent, as was prescribed originally as a globe proof of sunsets and curvature. But we know it's not due to curvature; it's just the angle.
No, you got to be careful here. The elevation angle doesn't change though. As you go up, it's still at 0, isn't it? If you go up the Burj Khalifa, yeah, it's at 0. You're just able to see it, but in terms of the actual elevation angle, it's still 0, isn't it? It's on the horizon, so it becomes 0. So if you go up so if we're not at sunset and we go up, whilst it may look in your field of view different, which it will because you've got a massive open deck, you're 1,000, 2,000 foot up in the air. But if once you establish a level, the elevation angle will be the same.
We all clear?
Is this part of the reason that globers assert the stars are tiny suns so they can make a claim of infinite distance?
Possibly. I'd have to check. That sounds about right, though. I don't know why that contradiction is there. I know why it must be there in terms of the actual practical application. I don't know the
Right, but if you assume the stars are tiny suns and the sun is really close in comparison to the stars and the sun changes its angle as you rise in altitude, then the stars would if they were closer. So how that argument was had out.
Yeah, with a geometric sphere edge to block them if they were closer. Like the sun is closer, and then you have the effect of the angular limitation being ascribed to the Earth curve. Yeah, it works out quite nice. They've obviously carefully thought this out, probably because it's been born out of objections to it, like with Brahe, which is who originally was objecting in that regard, right? They'd have to be massive. If I just change the intonation, they would have to be massive. So they are. Then they ascribe then they ascribe their sizes with Kepler. You know, that's when it becomes, no, they will be massive now, based on these distances. And then it's almost like they're close enough to infinite anyway, right?
Right. So they move on prior to that to say, well, the stars ain't changing their angle as we rise in elevation, but the sun is. So that means the sun's closer to us, and the stars are just tiny suns, and they're far away. Like, if you say it with certainty, people may buy it.
Yeah.
I think they did at first, but then when they put them that far away, like I seen something the other day, it was on Orion, the stars in Orion's belt, and they're like 30, 40 times bigger than our sun. They have to be to have that angular size in the sky and have them that far away. The implications are that now our sun, the biggest thing we see is actually very, 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 very small compared to those much smaller things we see.
That 2075, that show. Doing a thumbnail.
Yeah.
And by the way, Adam, I was agreeing with you. I wasn't disagreeing with you. And just for the record, Paula said I was correct. And
What
she's
about?
known as the Bible literalist.
What about?
About when God said there's nothing that man cannot do. If you read the whole chapter 11, you'll see.
Yeah, I didn't.
Now, I'm not saying we could ever, but I'm just saying it's open.
I didn't say we couldn't. I was just saying
I know you didn't.
we can't right now, and it would seem futile. I mean, I'm not engaging on building the next Tower of Babylon just to check them out. That'd be my point.
We have other things now. We have ships that fly up there, Adam.
I think Amazon already built that tower.
We can fly up there now.
The original lie was "one day you shall be as God." That's kind of an appeal to the future with it. Does that mean that's possible?
No, but in the context that I was stating it in, God was telling them, God was speaking within himself. I'd say the Trinity. They said there's nothing that man cannot do now. When man unites as one, and they had one language. So perhaps if humankind would unite as one, we can find out what the stars are.
It probably wouldn't be a good thing if we did. Just seeing what people have done, I don't think it would be a good thing to find out.
What do you guys think of that new Netflix show, The Three Body Problem?
Yeah, I told you about that months ago.
I was kind of
Is
bitching
it a
about
show
it
about a
yesterday.
monogamy?
Yeah, that'd be nice. But it's actually, I mean, it's good, but it's triggering for me. It kind of pisses me off on different levels. But I didn't want to watch it for a while. So anyway, what they, spoiler alert, what they portray is that they have a planet. Some planet has three suns. So that's a problem because three suns would throw everything out of whack, right? But they portray it obviously as a flat and stationary Earth, and the suns are the three bodies that are a problem. But and it just goes over everybody's head who's watching it under the globe belief.
But those movies are put out for a reason. You know that.
I knew it as soon as I saw the title. And I was like, "Oh, the title's pissing me off." I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, but yet you'll have people like my sister-in-law arguing for it. Yesterday, she had a friend over, and a friend started saying something about the laws of motion. And I said, the laws of motion of Newton were not correct. And my wife looked at me and put like a finger up, like to stop. But she was a school teacher there. So I can challenge her, can't I?
She agreed, obviously. Then she's been through higher education. She knows they're not correct.
Funny thing is, she didn't say a word. She's still quiet. I said, didn't you know
That's
that
'cause
the
she
laws of
knows.
Newton were not
That's
correct?
because John's right. She knew. She's been through higher education to be a teacher, therefore she knows. So she went quiet.
Better to keep your mouth shut and let the whole world think you're a fool than open your mouth and prove it.
You know, it was
Well,
Easter yesterday, so
she's a kind of lady that like she passed her remark about my wife working in Target. She does it in a certain way to look down at her. She passed her remark about me doing DoorDash, right? So in her mind, she's like saying, I know what she's thinking. How the hell does this guy know that?
I think that's just your low self-confidence. You used to say that when you were doing carpentry. It's like,
Even then, even with that.
Doesn't make any difference what you're
Yeah.
doing. People sometimes appeal to
Yeah,
me
but
delivering groceries. When I was transitioning into YouTube, I had a part-time job delivering groceries. That became, that's Nathan, a grocery delivery boy. Remember? Doesn't matter if I was still doing it to this day. Would it matter? No. Doesn't make any difference to my arguments what I do. As a job, I do YouTube now. I didn't then. I was transitioning. You aren't your job. Your argument stands alone, Neil.
yeah, I know that, but they don't know that. They look at you no matter what you say, Nathan. People will look that don't know you will look down at you if you hold a certain position in our society. And then when you come out with something that challenges them or they know you're correct on, that throws them off. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it was argued earlier in the show that if you didn't have firsthand experience holding a sextant, you couldn't comment on the process of celestial navigation because you're not capable of making true statements, I guess. That's what the implication was
Do
earlier.
you remember what Al Pacino tells, what's his name? Guy who plays Neo. In Devil's Advocate, there's
Keanu Reeves.
He tells Keanu Reeves that you don't want to be driving the BMW and wearing the flash suit. You want to be a surprise. Ride the subway, wear normal people clothes. Because then they don't see you coming. You're a surprise. So you stunned her to silence with that remark. Didn't see it coming, did she, Neil? That's an advantage that you hold. I like it. The cogs are turning. I can hear them.
No, I wish I would have been able to go on, but I was silenced.
No,
because I was going to challenge her on science next.
She didn't carry on the discussion and correct you on Newton's laws of motion being correct now, did she, Neil?
No, but I had a follow-up question, but I wasn't allowed to.
Doesn't matter. Didn't need anything. You didn't know that you'd won. The fact that you were shut down at that moment, yeah, that's all right. The conversation couldn't continue, could it, Neil? And you knew that when you shut it down with your statement that she didn't see coming.
Oh, she definitely didn't see it coming. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, because the rebuttal was on her, not you, Neil. You put her in a situation where she would have to contradict something that she's been taught in higher education, as opposed to something she teaches her kids. It wasn't easy for her what you just did. It had to be painful.
Yeah, so Al Pacino said that to Keanu Reeves. In what movie was that? That was the one where he was the devil, right?
Yeah, Devil's Advocate. He says you want to be the hand at Mona Lisa's skirt.
Right. But I'm wondering, did he have an effect on him? Because Keanu Reeves does ride the subway even till this day.
I don't know if that had an effect on the person. I was talking about the character, not the person, not the actor.
I know.
Maybe it had an effect on him, but being a bit more humble and blending in. Yeah, he doesn't tend to walk around with bodyguards or anything, does he? He just blends into society and carries on his life on the subway and so forth, and occasionally gets recognised. He'll say hello and then carry on his journey without many people making a massive fuss, because he's not sticking out with gold Rolexes and driving a Lamborghini. And yeah, that is the very sentiment that Keanu Reeves, the individual actor, does adhere to, it seems. But that was the sentiment of the character portrayed by Al Pacino when he's trying to explain to the Flash lawyer, no, you want to be a surprise. You don't want to let them think that you're going to be some fantastic Flash lawyer. You want to seem understated so that they don't know what to expect, or they don't expect to see some flash razzle dazzle delivery of your story that you're putting on behalf of your client. Summarized as you want to be the hand that Mona Lisa's skirt.
Right. And it benefits you too. If they underestimate you, they will not try their hardest, which will give you an advantage.
Nathan, did you ever see that show, The Offering? Well, it's Miles Teller's in it, and it's about the guy Ruddy that produced the movie The Godfather and everything he went through. And I think you would like it because during the show, they use quotes from the movie, but in the show. It's like so cool. Like he goes to see this I think the guy was a mayor about shooting in New York, and the mayor says, I must say no to you, and I'll give you my reasons. You know, like the Don did to Salazzo when he sat down with him. It's really good. I don't know what they call that in acting, but it's really cool how they do that.
Isn't that an homage?
I don't know, but they use quotes from The Godfather while doing this show. It's so cool. I'm like, oh shoot, that's what he sat down with Don Corleone. Anyway, I'd recommend it. It's I think it's 9 episodes, but it's really good.
I wonder, going back to an argument earlier, if you haven't been to the moon, can you argue that people haven't been to the moon under that statement?
That's like an elder bear type thing. Is that how you're doing it?
Well, I didn't want to bring his name up specifically, but you have.
No, that's ridiculous. But I was going to tell him, why don't you go talk to Johnny B? He was a captain on a fisherman's boat. I'm sure he has performed celestial navigation. Or you could go out in a boat and do it yourself, right? You could rent a boat, can't you?
I don't think
And
Eddie
bring
Bear
a
would-
sextant on.
He'd do it with the sextant and he'd go, I don't think I can trust my own eyes and my own evidence in this respect when I'm measuring it flat. It's just hearsay when I'm looking at it happening.
And that stupid thing about this show, then that means all of us are in on it.
He wants to poison the well. He wants to position it from the starting point, or he did position it from the starting point of, we're not unreasonable to suspect everybody of being deceitful. Here's my reasons for suspecting you of being deceitful. Well, you got a live audience listening. Yeah, it just wants to poison the well.
Yeah, but his justification was to say that facts and evidence aren't facts when they clearly are. It just didn't make any sense. But he was trying to justify it that way.
Trying to associate the facts with hearsay.
It's funny how he came in with that pre-show with me getting rebuked for getting him in a bad mood. And I don't say a word, and he comes in the same way he has 10 other times before. I hope you see now.
He pushed the line too far as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I didn't see that last thing he did as being anything other than gross. Like,
me neither.
Yeah,
I saw it as part of the course. Adam was a bit more disgusted than I, even though it was me that was the example. But no, I didn't necessarily see that as any more egregious, scummy. Yeah, but I've seen other things that I consider to be more scummy. I think it's more scummy when people put words in your mouth you haven't said, especially when they say, "As we have agreed." What? We didn't agree to anything.
Oh, that like what is that? East and west are perpendicular, or what was it he said? I can't remember. He tried to put words in my mouth the other day.
Yeah,
Just as one example.
East and west is perpendicular to north, you would say. Well, like, we didn't say that. Well, he wanted it to be our argument, and then about a week later he came back with it as his argument. It was really weird. You go back and listen. First he's trying to make it our argument, then he turns it, that he literally comes back and has it as his own. It was weird.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's from not understanding how a compass works, or I just couldn't understand his point. Just didn't make any. You couldn't connect it to anything. It was just like random statements that you couldn't apply in reality. You know what I mean?
It just seems bitter. I don't know why.
Look, Nathan, I commend you because you're being a nice guy. You're being very patient, so everybody could see that. And he acts the same way over and over and over again. So what can you do?
Doors open, Neil. I can't control who comes in the bar.
Yeah, but the ones that come in the bar, you treat them as the regular customers. You're giving him his answers. You're patient with him every time until it gets to the point where you're not patient anymore. And you start calling him Elder Bev, because that's what he is. He's sent here from Bev. Bev has an agenda. They all have an agenda. They don't like us.
I think that's
Well,
probably
a lot of times I don't.
Sent here by Bev is probably what he'd object to the most. It infers that he's a little lapdog.
Yeah, but most of the people that come here and ask questions, not all of them. I don't want to put everybody, but it seems like they've already got a claim in mind, and they're trying to seek affirmation for their claim by trying to ask us a gotcha. Now, it's not everybody, but a lot
Only
of the time.
99%.
As negative as that sounds, you're saying they're appealing to us. Even if it's to find out something that they can contradict, that we typically are doing so well with, respected for being right about, if they can affirm their bias with something that they catch us out on, they're still appealing to us. John, would you not agree?
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Am I your guru? Does how I undo this or make this so, based on your standard, be it for gotcha's sake or not, really affect how you view the world? Is it that important to you? Now, when they try and make it seem like, no, well, just got to trust what you say. It's like, no, it seems like what's happened for Edinburgh, just reading between the lines, up until then, he has just trusted what people say without having to do any background research. Then when you find that, oh no, it turns out these people are wrong, now there's someone else saying something different, kind of just take what Nathan says at face value. Not if you've been taught a lesson, then you check. But no, I just want to take it on face value, and based on face value, I can't just walk around and see that the Earth's flat, and that's what you're saying. No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm laying down standards that you don't need to trust. You can verify, but that would mean you have to do something beyond what you've typically done, which is just take things at face value and trust people. Yeah, that led you astray. That was a flaw in our character as people, wasn't it? And it was took advantage of, but now you want the standard to apply to me. No, it's up to you to do your own due diligence. I don't care if you trust me or not.
Yeah, it's a real weird position to take, because he's been here long enough that he's seen the diagrams and citations. Unless he's just completely putting his blinders on and putting his fingers in his ears and going la la la, then he's seen what we're what we're pointing out. I don't get it.
He
I
denies
don't get
things.
it.
Well, that makes him disingenuous because he'll ask the same question, like the one with, well, what have you got to prove it's measured flat? Well, Polaris and its measurement of latitude. Put it out to him, and then he asks the same thing 2 days later. You're like, we're definitely disingenuous. It's not like he can go la la la. He's heard it multiple times, but he'll come back and go, no, I want to push the agenda that you're not proving your measurements. So by ignoring what you've already told me when you prove your measurements, I can reassert that and put it in the mind's eye of the audience. So he's got an agenda.
Yeah, it goes back to the topography of the land isn't flat, so Earth isn't. It's so basic of just wrong. I don't see where they even justify it.
It's nice how you're repeating everything I said in the pre-show. Thank you.
All right.
Well, that's
Why
non
you're here, Neil?
sequitur anyway.
You're here because you're good, Neil. That's the self-esteem problem again.
Yeah, that's non sequitur anyway. Elevation change as opposed to orientation.
No, they were rebuking me for calling Elder Bear disingenuous. And now they're calling him that. Wow. Gee. You get him
Right,
set
but
off in the wrong. You get him set off wrong, Neil, because you attack him right away. So you put him on the defense. Well, Neil didn't say a freaking word today.
Well, each time you speak with someone, you got to treat it as if it's a new individual, because not only are you talking to them and they've had the opportunity to gain knowledge, but there's an audience watching that may not have any knowledge of his past experience.
Exactly. What do I say in the intro? You'll be warmly welcome back on the next show. So, warmly welcome back isn't, oh, here we go again. Is it, Neil?
Yeah, I didn't do it. Here we go again today. And he still acted the same way.
Yeah, that's how he acts. We warmly welcome back the following, unless you've done something really egregious, which several people have. There's maybe half a dozen of them that know who they are. But, generally speaking, you'll be warmly welcome back the next day.
And he's still open to change too. There's a possibility in that. Change does happen.
He'll come in, isn't he?
No. Not with him.
Coming, isn't he? Neil?
I didn't hear you.
He's still coming.
Yeah, because he wants to make this show look bad. He wants to make you look bad. He's trying to get you in a gotcha, which he's never going to get you in a gotcha, because there is no gotcha. It is what it is. But that's his intention. Somewhere along the line, you'll hear him say it's not flat, though. Just like Bev.
That's okay. Doesn't alter what we say. When it comes to celestial navigation, it is all flat. Again, we've gone over that with him multiple times and then given him examples with latitude. The very example I used earlier. So you can't, it doesn't want, he's got an ulterior motive. Maybe it is because we've undermined Bev's rhetoric that he's bought so heavily into that he wants to brace against that because he's bought into it so much. Maybe. I don't care though.
Well, what's the limit then?
You don't have one.
He can come in the next year straight, and we explain it to him every day for a year. What's the limit?
There isn't one.
The limit is when they get frustrated and start actively lying, and when it becomes so egregious that it's just.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things that people do that'll get them banned. But for the most part, Ed the Bear, poison in the well, us having to repeat the same thing 4 or 5 times, how is that any different to anybody else who's come in throughout the time? The fact that he's on a show with Bev talking about how Earth is flat, not flat. Okay, that's a bit weird, but so what? I don't really care.
Well, it's always good for our audience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Earth's not flat because I measure how not flat it is with respect to how flat it is. That's how I know Earth's not flat. It's just so nonsensical. But you got to point it out to them every show, I guess.
Well, I walk around and it doesn't appear flat. I walk around looking around and it appears to be something other than flat.
Yeah, he was appealing to topography again without saying topography because he knew we'd bust his head on it.
So what does he want us to say? There's hills and there's valleys. What? And there's mountains. Why?
Yeah, those are all hills and valleys with respect to what?
Flat plane.
A flat plane we dwell atop.
Yeah, it's like with the description of the table, just because it has micro undulations, does that mean that there aren't any flat spots? I mean, when a surveyor comes out and they get their measurements down to 0, what does that mean? That there's no point higher or lower than the other? What did they just do to the land with the construction crew that just worked with them?
They leveled it.
Right, they measured it flat and then they stopped.
Which is where the argument should end.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody's making the claim that surveyors come out and level a surface to get it curved. Nobody would say that.
And if it is curved,
Definitely
you can't
not
get anything.
surveyor.
And if it is curved, you can't get anything from it. It's useful.
Yeah, it's.
Well, you certainly can't get elevation angles from it.
I think a lot of it is people want to be able to argue. Like there's a power in being able to deny something and have an argument about it. Kind of like an authority within yourself kind of deal.
Gotcha.
So then get on board.
Yeah, what he's saying is the opposite. By disagreeing with this, Bear in this example has a certain amount of power that he empowers himself with by doing so, just by disagreeing. Yeah? Is that what you're saying, John?
Yeah, but it's kind of like a fallacious, the belief that you have power, not actual power kind of deal.
Right. I mean, if the arguments are rubbish and they're doing that, you just have to overcome the arguments every time. That's just what we do, right? Maybe he's highlighting things that people do think. For all I know, people think, oh, Nathan only thinks this is true because he's been out with his sister once or twice on boats when they've done celestial navigation. Not once or twice on the boats, but once or twice when they've shown me the celestial navigation process being done.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is people don't understand how claim structures work either. When you're making assertions, they think they can just say nuh-uh to a positive statement, even if it's given with evidence, and that's good enough, you know? And that's just not how it works.
Again, not everybody understands standards of evidence, though, do they?
No, no, they don't. That's probably the biggest problem is standards.
Yeah, like the argument from incredulity, that's just a picture of a curve. You just got to look at it, and you're an idiot if you don't understand that. Like, that is, to you, a reasonable standard, right? Okay.
But, you know, if it wasn't in this subject, I think people could recognize it a lot easier. You know what I mean? Like if I went out with a zombie movie and was like, zombies exist, look right here, there's zombies in this movie. What are you going to deny it? You know? People would laugh at me. But for some reason in this subject, that's just accepted.
You've got to get the information to people at birth. That's the only way it works, I think. It's accepted as a reality from birth. You're going to fight logically inconsistent arguments. I know it's a sphere because it's a sphere.
Yeah, but that would mean that people would have always had to believe it was a sphere. You know what I mean? That,
And they have
I don't know
from
if I,
birth.
what?
They have. They'd have to. You said they'd have to if they had always thought that. Well, no, it's taken a solid 3 or 4 generations to incorporate the everyone knows it's a sphere from birth bit. But once they got sort of 2 or 3 generations in, that was it. Self-perpetuated.
Well, yeah, I agree to that part, but I'm saying that the people who initially pushed it would, you know, how did they come to that conclusion is what I'm talking about.
I think it wouldn't be that someone came to that conclusion. I think that wasn't a conclusion. It was a methodology for understanding the motion of the stars for better predictive capabilities. Someone's come along, seen that system of prediction and gone, I can use this to exploit people and control them. And then it's been utilized for that method to keep people under control because there isn't another religion doing that. And religion's a very useful way of keeping people under control, and having a religion based on a methodology that gives you better predictions of the stars means you've got a very good basis to situate that religious belief in reality. And once you do so, you can use it for all the benefits of any other religion. And I think that is exactly the summary of what we have in heliocentrism.
Right. So under that standard, the Catholic Church is the power behind the throne.
Yes, if you want. Yes and no. They're the ones that have instigated the system for the better predictive capabilities bit, but that doesn't mean that they're the ones that have utilized the system for purposes of control. It doesn't mean that. How it's been instigated over the last 300 to 350 years, say, as a system of control, I don't know. I can't follow that journey beyond here's the system that we're arguing about whether or not it's real or not, and where it started, and where we're at now is with literally people defending it of their own volition without being paid or told to do so or having a benefit in doing so, simply because they were told it from birth. In between, you've got someone somewhere utilizing it for the reasons of control, saying we are actually on this world. Now, I don't know who that hidden hand is or why they chose to use heliocentrism as a method of control. I don't have answers to that or who that is, but we do know who came up with the systems. But that doesn't mean that they came up with them to control the populace with a religion. They just wanted to better predict where the stars would be. I don't think for a second that Copernicus actually thought we stood on a ball when he started describing it that way by utilization of elevation angle measurements and the predictive books that they had at the time. What was it, the Ephemeris? To me, it seems like an absurdity that person would think we're actually on a sphere when they describe it that way mathematically. maybe I'm wrong, but I struggle. So someone in between has had to take what is essentially a better mathematical description for the capabilities of predicting where the stars will be for Easter and such like, and gone, no, let's turn this into the nature of our actual world. Who did that? I don't know. And does it matter?
Satan.
I don't know who the hidden hand was, Neil. But at some stage, somebody's gone, this is useful.
Right, but aren't you applying the information and knowledge you have now to people in the past who didn't have that information and knowledge?
No, because to come up with the system in the first place by Copernicus or Kepler, we can't really necessarily say the same for Huygens, because he's already halfway there, isn't he? But for a number of them that are ascribed the origins of this system, heliocentrism, I can't in my own mind picture that they don't recognise that angle measurements that they're using are actually inferring the ground is spherical shaped. I can't wrap my head around that now, but as I said a couple of days ago, struggle to even conceptualise the globe for the reality of our surface now. I struggle to do that. So when I look at someone who's taking angle measurements of the stars off a flat plane to derive it into spherical motions for better predictive capabilities, if I know the origin, then I assume they would know the origin because that's what they're working with, aren't they? So how can they be the people that say, well, we are actually standing on a sphere that I've inferred by this mathematics from the measurements of a flat plane? I don't see how that could be the case for Kepler or whoever from those 300 odd years ago. But I don't know. I can't ask them, can I?
Well, it's possible.
I think you're 100% right.
Go on, John.
It's possible. It's possible it was distance between the information, and that the people who measured and created the celestial sphere didn't necessarily come up with the idea to live on a ball. It's just people lost respect for the plane of reference used to build that model.
I don't know, Nathan, because part of me says they looked up and they saw the sun and the moon, and they assumed that's what we're standing on too. Could be that too. Ignorance.
But where's that part of their maths or rhetoric? The maths has the same origins as ours, Neil. It's the angles to the stars. When you know that,
Oh, that's right.
that's it. Well, once you know that,
Yeah.
how can you say that they take that and then say we're on a sphere with it?
Yeah, it don't make sense to me.
They might have done. They might have had nefarious intent. I don't know.
Well, it's either that or, like you said, they knew, but they just wanted to better predict when Easter would be. So they found it useful, right? No big deal. Maybe they didn't think it was going to turn into what it is now. I don't know. It's a religion now.
Yeah. But we don't need to know the in-between bit. We know it's measured flat and their origins are based on that. That's it. That's all we have to point out. When people worry about, well, how did we get to the point where it was being used to keep us under control? Who was the one actually taking it to lie? Well, I don't know, and it doesn't matter. It's not true. We can show how it's wrong. We can show how it is measured flat. That's all you need to know. If someone keeps telling you it's not the case when you show them otherwise, worry about them and their intent in the moment. I will be rounding out shortly then.
Is Adam still here?
No.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm fighting with kids. They're yelling at the moment.
That's right. It's been a really good show.
What?
little bit of dead air at the end, fine by me. It's been a really good show.
What's in it? The slippery slope fallacy. I heard that the other day, and I didn't know what it was.
What fallacy?
Slippery slope. I think that's what they said.
I think it must have been someone's description about a fallacy as opposed to that being the fallacy. I don't know, Neil. You have to be a bit more specific.
No, the guy just said, well, that's a slippery slope fallacy. So it perked my ear. It was on TV. I was hoping Eli would know because he investigated the fallacies.
Yeah, but slippery slope isn't a fallacy. That's just pointing out how, that standards and how they're applied, if they're done incorrectly, can be applied back.
If I wasn't driving, I'd look it up.
Whose server do you want to go in this week? We'll go somewhere else one of the days this week. Where do you want to go?
Well, I think the best one has been the politics server, to be honest.
Yeah, but we only went in there yesterday. Well, Friday. Well, you have a little think. With that, though, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!